I'm back and I'm still cool. Today, we're gonna talk about what happens when your favorite artist's new project kinda misses the mark, falls flat. Did Taylor Swift just flop? If you don't know, Taylor Swift just released her 11th studio album called The Tortured Poets Department.
All's fair in love and poetry. Sincerely, the chairman of the Tortured Poets Department.
I think it's 11. It might be 11 and 12. I'm not entirely sure because she's released an anthology of work, which I'm now checking includes 31 different songs. That's a lot of music. That's a lot of things to discuss. Now, if you look online, you would think Taylor Swift has committed war crimes because people do not like this album for a myriad of reasons. Some people don't like Taylor Swift. Some people don't like synth pop. Some people don't like Taylor Swift's version of synth pop. But I think there's something deeper to get into here because I too, for the very first time, when I listened to this record all the way through, I didn't have a visceral response to it. There are several artists where when I listen to their new works, I feel something, girl, and I didn't necessarily feel I could sink my teeth into this, even though there's so much. Compared to something like Cowboy Carter, I love that. I've been spinning that since it goddamn fucking came out. I can't get enough. And I'm usually like that with Taylor Swift. I'm a diehard Swiftie. I have loved Taylor Swift since fucking Fearless came out. So I feel I've earned my credentials. I also feel I've earned my right to critique Taylor Swift. Seeing the public's reaction to this album and hearing how most people, most Swifties even, have been like, I won't say let down, but a little maybe taken aback at this. It's reminded me a lot of when Lady Gaga released Art Pop. I've been talking about Lady Gaga a lot on this channel, and it's obviously because she's just a pivotal figure in pop culture in the same way that we can think of Marilyn Monroe as an incredible actress and someone who was just a brilliant entertainer, but also someone who became bigger than herself. Lady Gaga became bigger than herself. So I think that's why it's easy for me to look back into the history of pop culture and immediately find something that Lady Gaga has done or gone through that I can draw a parallel to. But first, my darling friends, we need to go back to 2010. At the very end of the year, Lady Gaga began to tease her next project. You have to understand, she had just come off one of the biggest debuts of all time. She had just released The Fame and the Fame Monster.
And the Grammy goes to...
The Fame Monster, Lady Gaga.
Lady Gaga.
Oh, shit.
So for any new artist, your sophomore album is always something that's considered to be a really large career hurdle, especially with people who have these massive debuts like Lady Gaga, Olivia Rodrigo, Chappell Roan, Billie Eilish. The second sophomore album, it feels, how are you ever supposed to top something that was never possible to begin with? So when Lady Gaga started the process of teasing this new album and promoting the new work that she was about to release, the spotlight was on her and it was hot.
Lady Gaga! Thank you so much. I was so nervous for tonight that I would let my fans down. And I promised if I won this tonight, I'd announce the name of my new record. It's called Born This Way. How beautiful in my way, 'cause God makes no mistakes. I'm on the right track, baby. I was born this way.
And luckily for Lady Gaga, Born This Way became an even bigger success than The Fame Monster was.
She is the biggest pop star in the world. Her latest song that you heard her fans, her little monster singing down there, Born This Way, already topping the Billboard charts. Hatching on May 23rd, Lady Gaga's newest album, Born This Way. It's expected, like all other things Lady Gaga touches, to be something the world will be talking about for some time to come.
For the third time in Lady Gaga's history, it was nominated for Album of the Year, and it had 4 singles on the Billboard Hot 100. Born This Way, Judas, Edge of Glory, and You and I. So now we're in a position where Lady Gaga's sophomore album is fucking exploding. It stayed in the Billboard Hot 100 for 6 weeks, and since it's been released, it's been certified quadruple platinum. Platinum's 1 million copies, baby. And this is before streaming. I can't stress to you enough, being a young man at the time, this album was huge. It was everywhere. This is what took Lady Gaga into becoming something bigger. That was crazy. And of course, to end an album cycle, an artist is going to tour. So the Born This Way ball went on to become fucking huge. It was sensational. It was like the Eras tour of the time.
Little Monsters Unite.
The journey continues. The Born This Way ball starring Lady Gaga in a brand new show that only she can create.
Lady Gaga was on top of the world. There was nothing that could knock Lady Gaga down. That was until 2013, when Lady Gaga released Art Pop. Lady Gaga was in a position in her career where it seemed that she was incapable of making a faux pas. She had no missteps, she was consistently winning, she was consistently making the right moves, and the trajectory that she seemed to be on was stratospheric. So when Lady Gaga released Art Pop and all of the critics deemed it to be a complete and total failure, flop Tina George, it was really surprising. It was really surprising. So now we're in a really awkward position where Lady Gaga has very publicly said, this is some of the most prized work I've ever made. I put all of my heart and soul into this. This is filled and infused with whimsy, with different perspectives, with different sounds. She worked with a completely different set of producers than we were used to. She very heavily collaborated with Jeff Koons to make the visual side of this album. So very early on and very concretely, Lady Gaga presented this to us as something that was important to her.
The full album, Art Pop, will be released November 11th.
The fans want to know, Art Pop, so different than Born This Way. Can you describe how?
Well, you know, I think every person in their life goes through so many different things, and I'm feeling so positive and healed in a lot of ways, and I feel really overjoyed and full of love, and I have my fans to thank for that, because no matter what I go through and no matter how I evolve, they always stand by me because they appreciate my point of view, and that's what Art Pop is about.
The general public, however, didn't care. It was not well received at all. The general consensus for the album from the critics and the fans alike was, it was all things we've heard before. We've seen Lady Gaga do these things with different people, and it didn't really manage to make an impression. We didn't listen to this album and walk away from it feeling the same way that we did when you released Born This Way, when you released The Fame and The Fame Monster. So to the public, coming from this fucking stratospheric rise that Lady Gaga was on, getting handed something like Art Pop at the time that she was in her career, it just seemed like a weird move. It made people kind of go, whoa, okay. However, the album did debut at #1, and it did have commercial success. It just didn't make the same cultural shift that I was talking about in my Chapel Roan video that made Lady Gaga a superstar. Lady Gaga revealed that she conceptualized Art Pop during the very beginning of making Born This Way. So she had begun to kind of work on these albums in tandem, which made people on a second, third, fourth listen of the album think, these songs sound half finished, this production feels half baked, and since they were so used to the pop perfection that they were used to with Lady Gaga, people failed to kind of go back and revisit Art Pop after a first or second listen, which made it seem like everybody in the Gaga fandom was like, well, yeah, but we have Born This Way, we have The Fame Monster, we have Art Pop too. But we don't talk about Art Pop. And even when Lady Gaga did Joanne, which was a complete fucking left turn to what we were used to, it was still so well accepted because at the point in her career that she was, Lady Gaga was bigger than anyone in the fucking world. She was rivaling Madonna for levels of like diva status and being able to produce something that was just, upon first listen, it was just going to be considered so artistically impressive and so almost highbrow that we just, as a populace, decided, yeah, this is from Lady Gaga. We're not going to be able to understand it at the first go, so we'll give it a chance. And look at what Joanne became. It was a huge success.
This is for my father's late sister, Joanne. Why don't you stay?
I think Art Pop, if it were served to us in the opposite order that we got Chromatica, it would have been a huge fucking success. Chromatica was amazing and it would have worked whenever she put it out, but I think Art Pop needed its own specific time. Genuinely, we weren't ready. She was ahead of the curve. And what do you know? Going back, many critics who first rated Art Pop rather low on their scale, giving it really harsh critiques, have since either rescinded those reviews or republished reviews 10 years later saying, ooh, we were wrong, she was right, we should never question Lady Gaga again. So this brings me to Taylor Swift, but not the Tortured Poets department, because we've been here with Taylor Swift before. In fact, it was rather early in Taylor Swift's career too that she made a decision that was not well received by the general public and by her fans. Very similar to when Lady Gaga released Art Pop. A 20-year-old Taylor Swift was fresh off the Grammys press trail, and she was kind of at the tail end of promoting her album, Speak Now. It was a huge success. Taylor was well on her way into superstardom. One of the main things that Taylor was selling about this album was that she wrote 100% of it by herself.
Making this album was hard work. I wrote everything by myself.
And this was her third studio album, so she was over that sophomore hump. She was kind of out of the woods in regard to what she was sort of boxed into, label-wise, music-wise, and artistry-wise. So when Taylor Swift ends the promotion of the Speak Now era, we find ourselves summer 2012. Taylor Swift has been secretly dropping hints that she's about to release a new album that we later find out is called Red. This was one of the first times Taylor Swift did something that came to be known as the Secret Sessions, where she invited fans to her houses all around the world, and she played them the entire album, and she performed songs from the album for them live in like her living room. Now, when you are invited to a secret session, you sign a fucking Taylor Swift NDA. You don't leak a goddamn thing. You don't talk about it. You never went. You didn't go. You're not allowed to tell people you went until after the fucking album is out. However, towards the end of the summer, Taylor Swift released the first single from Red.
So, this is the first single off of my album, and it's called We Are Never Ever Getting Back Together.
That's not a country song. People were terrified at what had just happened to their precious little Southern Belle sweetheart, Taylor Allison Swift. They wanted their country music. They wanted their guitar. They wanted their banjo. We don't want no pop princess. We have Katy Perry, and she became someone of the devil. People freaked out. People were horrified. And in interviews, Taylor Swift has gone on to say that it was a huge change. She wanted to do something completely different for herself at the time. So when we got the song, We Are Never Ever Getting Back Together, we suddenly realized Taylor Swift is going mainstream, and there's nothing we can do about it. If you're a Swiftie, you know what Red went on to do for itself, and it was the first time that we got pop music from Taylor Swift. And I mean true, pure, Swedish-made pop. And that was the main difference with Red. Taylor Swift worked, for the first time, with Max Martin and Johann Shellback.
And I wrote it with Max Martin and Johann Shellback, who are two of my songwriting heroes. They're amazing.
If you don't know who those two are, yes you do. Here's some of the music they've produced in the last 25 years. That's what you call a hit factory. And it was up to us as an audience to trust what Taylor Swift was doing, trust what Taylor Swift was giving us, and trust Taylor Swift to do the right thing for her career and for her fans and for what she felt her music needed to be at that time. Because at the end of the day, it's not really about us. And after Red, we see Taylor Swift become a fully fledged pop star. We went from Red to 1989, to Reputation, to Lover. After working with Shellback and Martin, Taylor Swift went on to do 1989, which she heavily collaborated with Jack Antonoff. And again, 1989 became the biggest fucking album at the time of Taylor Swift's career and in the world. Two people had tried something totally different, and it became a massive success.
One magazine headline said it best: Taylor Swift is the music industry. Taylor Swift's giant hit single off her giant hit album, 1989. 1989 sold over 1 million copies its first week, unheard of these days, and was the only album to go platinum in 2014. The one-time teen country singer became a pop powerhouse this year.
So what does Taylor do? She keeps Jack Antonoff around, and they have collaborated together on almost every album that she's put out since the original 1989. Antonoff has worked on a lot of re-recordings. They've worked together on Reputation, Lover. They worked together on Midnight, and you can hear it. Jack Antonoff has a really specific sound. Jack Antonoff drums sound like Jack Antonoff drums. Jack Antonoff synths sound like Jack Antonoff synths. And the way that a Jack Antonoff and Taylor Swift collaboration sounds like a Jack Antonoff and Taylor Swift collaboration. So when we get to summer 2020 and we get the surprise drop of Folklore and then later Evermore, the biggest change is that Taylor Swift started working with, yet again, somebody new. Aaron Dessner is brought into the mix, and for the first time, we get a folksy, softer, sort of bluegrassy vibe to Taylor's voice and to Taylor's production that we had never heard before. When you think of the collaboration of making an album, you have to think of it as a ton of different pieces. One of you is a paintbrush, one of you is a palette, one of you is a canvas, one of you is a framer, and you all have to work together to make sure that this thing is cohesive and it makes sense. And I think Taylor Swift, Jack Antonoff, and Aaron Dessner did a perfect example of that with Folklore. That album is perfect, if you ask me. It has the production values that it needs to tell the stories that it's telling. Taylor Swift has the ability to shape her voice and give these stories life in a way that nobody else could. Jack Antonoff and Aaron Dessner as producers have ways to shape Taylor Swift's sound and push the pictures into those perfect songs. So when you get those collaborations, again, that makes sense, like working with Jack Antonoff for 1989 for the first time, or working with Johann Shellback and Max Martin on Red for the first time. You get major success. Personally, artistically, and of course, if you're someone like Taylor Swift, commercially.
You know what this is?
Beautiful.
A real blast. When you sent me the track for Last Great American Dynasty, I had been wanting to write a song about Rebecca Harkness since 2013, probably. And I'd never figured out the right way to do it because there was never a track that felt like it could kind of hold an entire story. Then when I heard that, I was like, oh my God, I think this is my opening. I think this is my moment. I think I can write the Rebecca Harkness story.
After Folklore and Evermore, we're all expecting Taylor Swift to keep going with this sort of woodsy, haunty, witchy vibe, and she does a full 180 again, and we get a pure pop record with Midnight.
I thought it might be a fun moment to tell you that my brand new album comes out October 21st.
Which of course is produced in tandem with Jack Antonoff. It's something we know, it's something we love, and it's something we've been needing. We're just out of the pandemic. People are starting to move, people are starting to groove, people are starting to live their lives. Taylor Swift's going on a world tour. We want to get up and dance. So why fuck with the wheel? Why do something when we know everything else is going to work? So that's exactly what they did, and it was brilliant. And yet, this is where you kind of lose me, Miss Swift. I think with Midnights, Taylor Swift and Jack Antonoff kind of squeezed every last bit of juice they can get out of each other, and it's time for her to move on to something completely different. When I was listening to the Tortured Poets Department, upon my second, third, and fourth listens, because I've given it a good bite, I find every single song I like has been produced by Aaron Dessner. Every single song that I found to stand out and have something different and something fresh and have a little bit of a sharper edge to it than most of the other pieces from that record are produced by Aaron Dessner. There's a stark difference between the two collaborators and what I, as a listener, am beginning to expect from Taylor Swift, which is why I think the Tortured Poets Department, even though it's become a huge success already,
Taylor Swift didn't need 2 weeks. Instead, just mere hours to shatter records with her latest masterpiece, The Tortured Poets Department. The star's 11th studio release quickly became Spotify's most streamed album in a single day, selling 1.6 million units.
And has been rated 10 out of 10 by a ton of different publications. Within the fan base, it got a bit of a yawn, because when you're so used to something, especially on the scale that Taylor's been doing it, it starts to feel a little bit redundant. And it's not lost on me that this is an anthology of poetry. I'm completely aware of that. I think more so it's the packaging that's bothering people. It's the delivery system that people aren't really vibing with anymore. Because this brings us back to the whole point of this video. What do you do when your favorite artist gives you something that you're not the biggest fan of? Well, ask yourself why. I like my Taylor Swift songs to sound thought through, thought out, through composed, and to sound like a Taylor Swift song. To me, the Tortured Poets Department sounds like somebody doing their best Taylor Swift who's doing her best Lana Del Rey. I do, however, believe that this album will go on to have a similar life experience that Art Pop had. In 10 years from now, everyone, including me, is going to be eating crow because we were like, kind of a miss, kind of a flop, I can't really find my footing in it, and then we'll look back in a decade and be like, what the hell was I talking about? I consider Art Pop a near skipless record. I loved that album, and I loved it when it came out. Only time will tell with the Tortured Poets Department. I think there's a lot of material there that is yet to be uncovered for me, but it's important as an artist to take risks, and it's an important thing to do as someone who is an extremely well-known public figure, to challenge yourself and do something that's unexpected and something different, like Cowboy Carter, like Renaissance. Totally changing the game, changing the narrative. You've done it again, sister. So who knows? Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe this is a complete anthology of some of the greatest music of all time. Or maybe this just isn't Taylor Swift's best album. Not up to me to decide. Did you listen to the Tortured Poets Department? What are your favorite songs from it? I'll tell you mine right now. So Long London. But Daddy, I love him. I Can Do It With a Broken Heart. The Albatross. So High School. I Look in People's Windows. Clara Bow. And those are my picks out of the 31. Don't you worry, do not fret your little heart. I'll keep spinning it. I'll keep giving it a try. I'm not afraid to hold on to something for a little longer than I should. Trust and believe that to be true. But you gotta let me know, what are your favorite songs from it? Also, what are your favorite songs from Art Pop? Have you ever listened to Art Pop? That's an extremely important question to me. Have you ever listened to Art Pop? My favorite song from Art Pop is probably Venus. Oh my god, I love that song. I love that song so much. Ooh, that's a good song. Also, don't forget to like and subscribe. That means a lot to me. Genuinely, the likes really do help. The more you like the video, the more YouTube pushes it out to people who find me, and then they like me too. And then everyone grows happier. And then my channel grows bigger and I can make millions of dollars someday. Don't you want that for me? So like and subscribe. I would love to have you here. Also, if I make you smile, if I make you laugh, buy me a coffee. It's in the description. You know I'm not shelling you any records. I'm not out here in the recording studio singing my heart out, but I am all over the internet making you laugh, making you smile. So if you would like to find me anywhere else, everywhere else, I'm Cody Jacob.